another edition of the AP Calculus tip of the day. Today I thought we should tackle a lot of questions, like give us some differential equations, some equations, and then they ask you to just like go find some stuff. And sometimes you end up taking the derivative of stuff, but then sometimes you have to take the integral. And they don't explicitly say, please take the derivative. Please find the integral, right? They like ask it in a little bit of a fancier way. And so what I thought we should do is we should talk about different ways that they can, like the words that they can send you that would indicate that you should take the derivative or that you should go ahead and find the integral. So this is by no means all of the different ways, just, things that I've been combing through and things that you've been experiencing in your FRQs. You're looking at them and you're like, oh, why does that keep popping up? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead. Now I'm going to switch cameras to our do just some words. They're going to help us know when we're going to take the derivative, and then some other key phrases and things, knowing when we should take the integral. So, just what are like between those two guys. Let's talk about those differences. So let's start with the derivative first. I think that's a good idea. Okay, so I guess our first guy right here is when should we take the derivative? What key words are we looking for? Okay, so when to take the derivative. Okay, so what are some key things that we should look for if it asks you to take the derivative? If it ever asks you to find the rate of change of something, oh, yes. Okay, if it ever asks you to find the rate of change, then you're going to be doing some sort of a derivative. Okay, rates of change mean we are going to do some derivatives. They may give you a function. They may give you like a y equals, a p equals, a k, I don't know, guys, just any kind of a function, right? And then it says, what is the rate of change of blah, blah, blah? Then your brain should be like, rate of change, rate of change. That means I need to take the derivative. Okay, what's another instance of something that they could give you if they, so that you would know that you're going to take the derivative? Maybe they ask you to find the minimum or the maximum. Ooh, right? Yeah. So if they ask you to find a minimum or a maximum, okay, we know that the process for finding a minimum or a maximum is by using the derivative and maybe finding the critical values, right? So you're going to have to figure out, you're going to have to take a derivative. You're going to set that derivative equal to 0, and then you'll go from there finding a max or a min. Another thing that's closely related to this, if it ever asks you, this is like a sub guy of this. If it ever asks you for intervals or like on what time values or for what time values, does it say if it's increasing or decreasing? Ooh, yes. Then definitely you're going to have to be taking some sort of a derivative. That's really important. Now, something I saw recently that I was like, whoa, that's tricky. Okay, they actually asked us for, this is very interesting, this question that I saw. It said, find the minimum of a rate of change. Oh, that was an interesting question, because rate of change is already saying that there's a derivative. But what was interesting about this question is that they gave us the derivative. Okay, they gave it to you, and then it said find the minimum of this. Well, what that means is we still have to take the derivative. And so we actually ended up finding the second derivative, right? Because it was just the derivative of the second derivative. So, and then we used the derivative to find mins and maxes, and did like a number line and did all that good jazz. Okay, so those are examples of when you should take the derivative. Okay, so just as a review, those were finding the rate of change of something. Rate of change means take the derivative. If they ever ask you for a minimum or a maximum value of something, that's another instance where you should take the derivative. Or if it asks you about intervals of like increasing and decreasing, that's another instance where you're going to take the derivative. Okay, this comes in handy when you're doing like fundamental theorem of calculus things. Like a very popular question is for them to give you some sort of a graph, and it looks like this, and then has like a half circle and then another line. I don't know. They do all sorts of crazy things. And then they say this is the derivative, right? And then you have to do stuff about that, right? So just thinking about that. Also, if you need to find the minimum or the maximum of a first derivative, you have to find the second derivative, just all that good stuff, all those good relationships. Okay, so then the question is, right, when should you use an integral? So when to use an integral to find something, okay? So let's talk about some key things about when to use an integral. So maybe, and this is a very popular thing that they like to do, is that when you start the problem, you are given a rate. So they give you a rate that something is happening, whether that is water draining from something, or people entering a park, or fish in a pond, or I don't know, guys. They give you some sort of a rate. And then they say they want to know, like, let's do the fish in the pond thing. So here's the rate that the fish are either coming in the pond or going out of the pond, or I don't really know. Okay. So then it wants to know when it asks for the actual like number of that item, then that means that you're going to have to go ahead, and if you integrate a rate, it means you get the number of items or whatever it is. So in example, like if they were saying, oh, like here's the number, this is the rate the fish are coming in the pond. What is the number of fish after a certain time? Okay, then taking the integral of the rate is going to give you the actual number of items. Okay, that's a good instance to be using an integral. Another good instance to be using an integral is if they ask you to find the average value. Okay, and it might not say these exact words. It might not say the average value of the function, right? But it will insinuate that you're taking the average value of the function. That is a good use of an integral. This actually does have a cute formula to it. You actually do 1 over b minus a in front of the integral from a to b, and then you do whatever your function is right here. But you definitely, for the average value of the function, are going to need to utilize an integral. Another fun thing that's interesting that I've seen actually on a couple of free response questions is, especially for this average value guy, once they ask you to find the average value, they ask you to approximate it, right? Not actually find it, but to approximate it. And then what ends up happening is this integral, they actually ask you to use an estimation for the integral. And we know there's actually several estimations for integrals that you can use. One of the most popular ones is to use the trap rule. Be careful on the trap rule, because sometimes your intervals are going to be even, right? And you can use a formula. Sometimes for the trap rule, your intervals will not be even, and then you have to find individual trapezoids. So just be careful about which one you should use. Sometimes they might ask you to use an R-RAM, or maybe an L-RAM, or an R-RAM. Okay, those are all like really good popular approximations for using finding an integral for something. So that's it, guys. Just some good tips, right, to think about when you should use an integral versus when you should use a derivative. Now, again, that is not an exhaustive list. And in fact, if I need a part 2 of this tip of the day, I will definitely utilize that. But just something to remember, things that keep popping up, I just keep seeing it. Now, remember, if you have a tip of the day, if you have something that you would like to go over, then definitely you need to share that with me, okay? Say, Mrs. Fox, I would love for you to tip of the day on, and then fill in the blank, and we'll find some examples for it. Okay, guys, I think that's it. I hope you have a great day. You enjoyed this tip of the day. Let's have our fanfare music to get us out of here. Bye. See you later.